Hi, Kavon here, and I'm here to show two small helper scripts that I have that you can use with Airtable, email automations, and the Find Records action. So a very common thing to do is say you want to send an email and you do a Find Records action, and based on that list of records that's found, you want to send that to an email. One of the problems that we have is if no records are actually found, the email still gets sent anyway, which can sometimes be very confusing to users because there'll be this blank section and they're like, what am I supposed to do? So it's nice if you could have some way of redirecting that email to someone else or a different email address. But currently the only way to do that is with a script because Airtable automations do not have logic involved for branching conditions. So there's a little script for that. And another thing that is useful is you have this nice little grid that can be displayed, but you also might want to have some sort of summary information. For example, if you had 3 records with numbers in and you want to say what was the sum of all of those numbers in it, the only way to do that is with a script. So these are actually very simple scripts. If you're already experienced with writing code, you could probably write them yourself. But for people who are code curious or no coders who really don't want to delve into big long scripts, just want a little bit of code, these 2 scripts are for you. So let's take a look at the automation. So this is just set up at a scheduled time. Say that we wanted to send it every 1 week on Mondays at 1 a.m. I can test that. That's done. And then you're going to have your find records. Here you'd probably have a little bit more involved here, but right now I've got this include me checkbox and I just want to include every record where include me is selected, and I will test that. And then I have my 2 scripting actions. So the first one is where I'm going to get a grid with all of these numbers and I want to have the sum of those numbers. Okay. So here you'd copy and paste in the whole script here. And you also would need to have this input variable. So you create that input variable over here where you would type in the name, and this is simply list of numbers all strung together, and it's a capital O and a capital N. And then for the value, we're going to get this value from the previous find record steps. So let me show you how you do that. You do the plus, and we're going to do the records from step 2 find records, continue, records, continue, and then I'm going to go down here and make a new list of field values, continue, and it's the number field that I want because you can't really do a sum on a name or a status. Insert, and that's here. Then I run my test. It's going to pull in the information from the find records. It found that there were these 2 numbers in there, and it calculates the sum, which we will use in our email message. Okay. So we tested that and we're done. Now we have the sum. And then we also have another script for setting up what we want to do with the email address itself. This one is a little bit more complicated. It has 3 input variables to set up. One is going to be the email if records, and this is the email that we want to send the email actually to if there actually are records. You can just type in your comma-separated list of email addresses, or if you want to get it from a previous step, you can do that. We also need another input variable for email no records, and this is probably going to be some sort of junk email address that you're never actually going to read. We really wish we didn't have to send this email anyone at all, but because Airtable is going to go ahead and try sending it, let's just send it to some email address that no one's ever going to bother reading. And then finally, we need to have an input variable that says how many records there are. So this is named num records. And we're going to get this from the find again. Let me show you how you do that. So the values plus records from our find, continue, records, continue, and then list properties, we want length. So we want the length of this list. Enter. That's it. Let's test this. So it's going to pull in the information from the find, and it found 3 records in there. So finish. And that's the script. We've tested it. And then finally, of course, you have your send email action. This is an Airtable send email action, but you can use any of the other send email actions. So the 2, we're actually going to want to use not the regular 2 that we do, but the one from the script that we did. So we go plus, and then we're going to have the script, which was the second one that we had, which is in step 4, that calculated the email address. So we continue and email, insert, whatever subject you want, whatever message you want. Here we're including the records that were found as an HTML grid, and then to include the sum, do plus, then the script in step 3 was the one that calculated the sum, continue, and here's the sum, click insert. Now we can preview our email. And because there were 3 records that were found, it's going to be sent to that good email address, and we can see what the sum is over here. Now suppose we have a situation where there actually were no emails that were going to be found. So let me clear these include me. And let's go back, and I'm going to go ahead and retest the trigger because it's generally good practice to retest the trigger whenever you do a new test. It's not really necessary for this one, but it's just a good habit. So the first action is the find records. Let's test this again. This time it's not going to find any records. Now let's run the script again for calculating the sum. Click test again. And then our second little helper script. Test again. And now when we go to our send an email action, we can preview the email. And because there weren't any records, it's now going to send this email to our junk email address. And we notice that the sum here is 0 because, of course, if you're trying to add up 0 numbers together, you'll end up with 0. And that's it.